I think I think especially for today, a lot of artists have to figure out different ways of being able to survive because realistically speaking, I know everybody's like, well, become a YouTube star. Good luck with that. I mean, it
Yeah,
could take
honestly.
years, there's no like guarantee. And then even though you have like that financial freedom, like you're still locked in to that. So if that goes south, then everything goes south with it. So that means your entire career, you know? And I think like kind of maybe also like kind of the approach I think you have been taking is kind of giving yourself like realistic expectations, like being financially stable, pursuing your profession, like figuring out and like prioritizing your time and like being realistic with yourself because you need to eat, you need to take care of yourself. It's like you can't wait for that bird to bring you the gold, if you get my drift.
No, I know exactly what you mean. It's like a very it is tough to reconcile your dreams with exactly how to, just survive and be a human being. And, if you have other responsibilities, it's tough. I know for me, I I'm first generation, so there's not any real money in my family, so there has to be some giving back to my parents and other parts of the family and stuff. Um,
I know what you
and
mean. I'm also first generation. My father is from Morocco.
oh, that's what's up. Very cool. Um, so yeah, like when you have those responsibilities, um, you know, things take a different tenor, for sure. Real quick,
Yes.
Dan, I want to make sure that you're actually getting good audio because I'm seeing waveforms in your um, uh,
You're
section here.
coming in a little bit low, so I would probably tell you just to raise your microphone just a little bit. I had this before with another guest.
How about now?
Yeah, that's ooh.
There we go.
Yeah. You have a
Yeah,
nice
yeah, yeah.
podcast voice, I'm just saying.
I have a podcast. That's
Um,
yeah.
but I just want to just veer off for just a second, by the way,
Yeah.
because this is important.
Sure.
A lot of the times, particularly even with my own experience, when you deal with artists, you deal generally with like it's a spectrum, but like two kind of directions. You either deal with people that are very easy to talk to, like eager to talk about what they do and like their experience and how they're able to do things. And then you get the opposite spectrum of where like they're really good at what they do. It's just they cannot fucking sit down and talk about it.
Mm. Oh, that's interesting. I don't
Yeah.
know if I've ever made that like direct distinction. But yeah, I think that's interesting. I'm a teacher. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm really used to talking to my students, and like trying a lot of different avenues and explaining a concept. And I like talking to people. As far as one of the main reasons I started a podcast myself was just to like constantly be in conversation with people and talking about things that we were passionate about. Not unlike what you're doing here, you know.
Oh, what I'm
Yeah.
doing over here is fucking wild. I mean, the fact that we got Trump in office, thank the Lord, because I'm okay for the next 4 years. Like, it's hilarious because the thing about it is, too, the conversations that I have
Mhm.
are a lot of the times controversial
Sure.
because I have my own opinions as an artist, and I have my own opinions as like, people can tell me from today till tomorrow, well, you have to understand that these days people have more independency, and therefore, there's more respect to the community. That's true,
Mhm.
but you still have independent producers that are taking advantage of independent artists. You have indie filmmakers that take advantage of the people, and especially in the education world, when you talk about
Mhm.
teachers that are in special ed or recreational departments, such as like the artist department, like teaching kids music and things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think we all unfortunately like there are assholes everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what stream of work you're in. There's just going to be people that are kind of shitty. Um, uh,
Assholery.
Yeah, assholery is rampant. Yeah, you could say, um, and it doesn't matter if you're working in special education or there are asshole teachers, there are asshole firemen, there are there are whatever. People that take care of people, nurses, are asshole nurses. Like there are people that are just not nice in every single line of work. They tend to, I feel like they probably tend to go towards finance, things that don't actually add anything to society besides making people more money. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Yeah, I, I love musicians, and some of them are assholes. Like like it's. I think they would all agree with me too. They probably just think
Yeah.
different people are assholes than I do.
The interesting part about it is like we always look at art, even particularly when it comes to musicians, money. It's always money. It's
Yeah,
like, can you perform at this place and how much money can you make there? And
yeah,
we kind of forget that like there's a person that spent the hours and their fingers are like cut and bruised,
right,
and money spent for them to actually play this instrument, for them to perform.
right.
Right. So where is the musician and all? You get my drift over here.
No, I know what you're talking about. It's something that we all kind of have to deal with all the time. Like I'll give like a wedding for as an example, because weddings are usually, I feel like, the first time anyone that isn't involved in the music industry is actually like hiring a musician for something. And they might look at ask you for a quote, and you give them the real price, the actual what would be fair for the amount of work you've put in, for
Right.
all of your skill, all your professionalism, and they kind of balk at it because they never think of music as like a um a luxury. They think of it as something that's for everybody, and music is for everybody. But if you're going to pay someone to do a service, you should pay them what they're worth. And musicians are worth a lot more than $50 in exposure, which is the typical payment model for younger folks.
Well, it's all about also like attitude, right? Because as time progresses, and we do have now this independency, and kind of like we've been talking about since earlier, is like being able to structure out your artistic career,
Mm.
like I'm saying realistically, because
Hmm.
I've been always taught, especially from my own dad, that if you put everything in one basket, you're risking a lot,
True.
right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's like you can do the wedding gigs, and then you can also, for example, have the YouTube channel and do
Sure.
all of those things on the side, right?
Mhm.
It's all about that balance, and everybody's going to be different of how they figure out that balance for themselves.
Yeah, I think it's very personal, how you go about it and how you deal with it. I think that for some people, it works for how their brain works to be doing like 5 or 6 different things. Be teaching in 4 or 5 different places, gigging with a bunch of different people. I live in Massachusetts, so like you can
Mass.
get you can get healthcare without being necessarily attached to a company. But a lot of folks, they don't have health insurance or whatever. Like all those other things come into it for sure. But um, I definitely value the fact that, like, I remember one time I quit a job without having anything lined up, and some people were kind of worried about it. And I'm like, at the end of the day, I can always gig it out. Like I can always if I don't have a 9 to 5, a W-2 job or whatever, like I can always rustle up students. I can always, hit up some contacts, really try to make the performing life work. But for me, I can't do that full time because of certain limitations, the injury and other things. But it's an option that others don't necessarily have because they didn't, invest that time or have that skill.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's understanding your limitations, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, when I like to always sometimes like look even into the past where some of the greatest performers had limitations, and yet they were
Yeah.
still some of the greatest performers. You know, one great example is Prince. Okay,
Mm.
the man fucked his ankle up so bad. Like I remember, I was like reading the article of like they show you like surgically like the muscles, and you're like,
Oh.
how it was bad. Like he had his
Yeah.
muscle was completely like away. It was like not even attached to anything anymore.
Oh my God.
So he still performed.
Right.
He
Right.
still went out there and recorded. But
Hmm.
did he do as much as he did before? No, because he had that injury, but he didn't allow that injury to stop him from doing what he wanted to do. You know,
Yeah.
what I'm getting at is there's so many excuses you can use to say, well, I can't do this. I don't have time. You can have time. You can do this. You could
Hmm.
figure out ways to make it work. Right?
Yeah, I know. I was literally just talking to a good buddy of mine who's a wonderful artist last night about that, and I think limitations are um, a huge part of like artistic practice in itself. Like when you're working on something, let's say, like for me, if I'm working on something, when it comes to like a music, let's say it's a classical piece of music that's already written down, like not something I'm improvising on, right? Like um, just the fact that I'm using a metronome, something that keeps time and makes me adjust to it, is just it's a limitation you're putting on yourself, so that you know that you can do that certain thing at any tempo, right? Um, Same thing with me as a jazz musician. If I'm improvising, like I am constantly putting limitations.
All about the artist. That is the whole purpose of this podcast, period. And you have a really valuable tool. You can share this with artists, people that are creative, someone that can enjoy this podcast and really enjoy the experience of Lost in the Groove. So, with that, let's jump back to today's episode, shall we?
To myself. I'm going to try to make this musical phrase happen this way and only this way, and go from ooh cat, beautiful cat. I wish I wasn't
Speaking
allergic to
of
cats.
speaking of jazz, uh, um, are you allergic? Are you really allergic to cats?
I unfortunately am. Yeah. Like it's not like severe. Like I'm not going to break out in hives, but I do have like asthma. So when I'm around cats for a long period of time, or if I'm in a place that has a lot of like cat hair, or it hasn't been cleaned as much, I'll definitely be, if I like struggling to breathe, which is not great. But if it wasn't for that, we would probably have a cat. We have a dog. I'm cool with dogs.
Okay, it's fascinating because some people are allergic to both, or it's
Mm.
one or the other. It's never like it's like dogs shed like crazy, and you'd think like especially if you had asthma that would drive the living hell out of your. Nope, it's cat hair.
Nope. No, it's cat hair. Yeah, no, yeah. It's wild how that stuff works. But to put a button to what
Yeah,
I was
sorry,
saying,
sorry.
no, because cats are important.
I
Animals are
mean,
important. I'm here for it. To put a button on what I was saying, just like I think limitations are what make you grow. Period. And if you put if you only stay in your lane and just do the things that are in your bag, it's not you're not going to actually like move forward. You're just going to sit in that same place.
comfortable.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, you're comfortable. You're not doing it. You're just you're enjoying the Lazy Boy recliner. For $18.99 now on sale. Um, but reality strikes in when, besides understanding like your limitations, also understanding awareness.
Mm,
Awareness of you do need a community of people, like you said, like
totally.
there's connections and knowing places and knowing people around town. It's very important, but there are people where they rely so much on other people in order to be successful, and it's like, hey buddy, here's the deal. Talking from my own experience, I have had 5 hosts, I think, yes, 5 hosts on this podcast. Hi,
Mm.
I'm the last one around.
Hmm. Why is what happened to like make it so? I don't know. Like I have been lucky to have my podcast partner and guest host Jay on for my entire like kind of podcasting career. What brought that about for you?
Well, I think the same thing applies even when you try to like. I live out here in South Florida, so one thing very common out here is artists will book gigs in breweries.
Okay.
You can have where you can be in a brewery for 2-3 years.
Okay.
Sometimes what happens, either the brewery changes direction or you as an artist change direction.
Okay.
People go different paths sometimes in life. It could be 10 years down the line, it could be 15 years, it could be 80 years. I
Totally.
don't know. It just depends on the individual. I think in particular for myself, I would say I rely more on myself than I rely on others.
Mm, sure.
And I think it's important, especially if you want to be successful on this planet, this insane place we call Earth. It should be on a tattoo. I'm just saying, throwing that out there.
So what you're saying is your reliance on yourself just uh, ended up. The podcast ended up with one host because folks might drop off, do whatever, but you believe in this thing and you're doing it, so it's going to happen regardless of who pops in and out because you're the pillar of this.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I am lost in the groove. Like, you know, it's what you make for yourself, right? What you as a teacher implement in your students, the experience that you implement in another person. They're going to remember you for you, regardless of all the things that you're creative and amazing at.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that to a certain extent. I think I know that I'm a teacher that relies on like my like ability to uh, get people to be chill around me. You know what I mean? Like some teachers uh, have a lot of technique and they can kind of teach anybody. Um, I think for me, if a student legitimately doesn't like me for some for some reason, that it's kind of tough for me to kind of break through and teach them because a lot of what I'm getting at comes from like my own personal experience. So I do think that that has some limitations,
Mm-hmm.
um, because in an ideal world I'd be able to teach anybody anything,
Right.
but I do think I rely a little bit too much on charm, I guess.
But I do feel being a teacher
Yeah,
is it's almost a different level because, you know, look, we like being around people sometimes.
not all the times,
Okay.
but sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes. All right. Having the ability to be in front of people on sometimes on a day to day basis and have to, like, you said, where you just have a student that's just being an asshole for no apparent reason or just one dumbass. I told you for the fucking 15th time, G chord major,
Mm.
not C minor. To deal with all that shit, I'd go out of my fucking mind. But for some people, like, it's a level of like patience, like you said, like understanding that like not everybody's perfect. Not everybody's going to react the way that you want them to. But understanding and being able to listen and being able to teach, not everybody's able to do that. I think you know that.
No, yeah, I 100% agree with that. No, there are a lot of people who do teach that probably shouldn't be,
No,
because
no.
they it's a way to make a living. It's not a way. It's not, but they're not actually there to educate. People, not even just children, but just people, right?
If
Yeah,
you're venturing to be a teacher in the idea of making a living, I think you should look at other venues and other careers. I think you're looking in the wrong direction. Because to be honest, teachers don't really make a lot of money in this country, like
no, they don't.
throughout the spectrum. So if you're doing it for the money,
No, it's tough, right? Well,
yeah,
okay. I mean, I'm a musician. There's a ton
right,
of money in music, right? Oh, like
yeah.
there's it varies, right? And it's something I'm passionate about, of course. And I have tried in some ways been successful in making it like my career. But you know, there's a lot of luck involved. in just making it happen. You get the right call, you were prepared at the right time, and
You're seen by the right person. Hmm.
right, exactly. But the day to day life of a like a middling musician who does a lot of local stuff and does a lot of GB work and whatever, it's not very glamorous at all. you know, um, I would say being a teacher might be a bit more consistent than being a musician. Um, but yeah, I guess it's all about what will let you sleep at night. Like what are you actually going to be cool with? Like, I think where you and I are probably just as smart as any of those finance pros that are making millions and millions and millions of dollars off of other people's money. Um, but I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if that's what I did every day.
No,
I assume the same for you. Uh,
I I've worked in the corporate industry,
mm,
and I've tried for so many years to try different things artistically to be able to be successful. Like I was in the culinary industry for about 6 or 7 years.
cool.
Didn't work out for me. You know, now I've like come to the realization that I love doing podcasts and I'm going to continue doing this.
Mm,
But I also have a passion for cars, and I come from a family that's been working. My brother's been in the automotive industry for 20 years. I want to work on cars. I mean, hey, if I'm going to do something and I want to get paid for it, I'd rather do something artistic, And
sure.
if you open up a car, oh, so beautiful intake manifolds, the camshafts, the lobes. Sorry, I'm getting a little horny right now. Vroom vroom. But that like the same thing for yourself, right? You have a passion for jazz. You have a passion as a musician, and you also have a passion to be able to teach. You know, all of those things is what makes you an artist. The
Hmm.
same way I feel that me being an automotive technician, doing podcasts and other things that I do makes me an artist. It's like you said, there's luck for there's luck for the chance of it. Okay, I'm not waiting around for luck. I want to enjoy my life right now. So how can I make my life enjoyable right now? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, you're essentially saying like YOLO. I hate that I just said that, but
Bring it back.
I mean, I feel like 2012, there was a bit more hope in the air. I wouldn't mind going back to 2012, maybe shaking me and say, make a different decision.
Hmm. Oh
Uh,
damn, 2012 was yeah, actually 2012 was a pretty good year.
yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of, I don't know. There seemed to be a feeling that you could make change. I don't feel on my dark days that right now is a moment where you could feel like you can do something and make a change. On my good days, I'm a bit more hopeful, but I think we're all kind of in the stink at the moment.
We can The only change that we can make is from ourselves, in the sense we're this podcast, your students. I mean, we can, the thing. Okay, I want to venture off of this because I talked about this on a previous episode because there was a scientist that was talking about this, and he said that our understanding of consciousness. Hey, it's Dave, and I quickly just wanted to jump in and say if you've been enjoying the podcast and enjoying this episode, if you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that'll be so greatly appreciated. Because here's the thing, someone might read that review and make the choice if they want to listen to the podcast. You get to help grow this podcast with us. How fucking cool is that? Let's jump back to today's episode. Is that it's not a single consciousness that we're attached to. It's a consciousness that's made up of trillions and trillions of consciousnesses to make one. So the idea is that if we are one of many, why are we trying to change everything when we can just change from where we are and allow that to spread and let it go in any direction it wants to go? I don't give a damn. We know what we did. We did our due diligence.
Mm.
That's it.
Yeah, you're saying like if you put a like you throw a rock in a pond, and that singular rock makes a bunch of reverberations.
Reverberations.
And there
Oh,
it
that's
is,
a hard word. Damn.
reverberations. There it is.
There it is.
Um,
Nice.
and so basically, getting up in the morning for an artist is making change. Like making just trying to make something and put something positive out in the world is making change. Is that what you're saying?
Hmm.
Mm.
Every single person that we approach, you know, I even think about like sometimes I play around with music, and I have my classmates in school, and for example, like I'll send them like a rough draft of it, and like one of my classmates, he's from like Atlanta, and he's like, "Ooh, man, this is hot." And I'm like, "Okay, thanks." And like him, like just re-listening it in, like him hearing it from his own perspective. You have those moments that pop up, where people around you see what you do,
Mm.
and they're like, "Wow, damn,
Yeah.
like Miguel, you're talented, bro." And so what? It's just one person, maybe two.
Hmm.
Hey, that's one or two people right there.
No, that's true. Yeah, I think in this culture where like going viral is the goal, if it feels like a different version of a get rich quick scheme or some sort of like Ponzi scheme. It feels like a couple of people listening to you at a bar is very minuscule and not the thing. But no, I think you're hitting on something there that y- just the act of you putting something out there to those minimal people um, changes something. Like I always say, whenever like people are worried about, they're all so worried about the record industry and they're worried about listening to recorded music. I'm like, you got to go see some stuff live, man, because like when you listen to live music, the air changes. You know what I mean? Like there's something that shifts in you when you're experiencing something with a bunch of other people, and not just in your headphones. I'm as guilty of it as anybody else. I'm constantly just have headphones on, listening to something, be that like an audiobook or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
um, we all definitely got to have to make sure that we're going into those third spaces and taking in something live with other people because
You know
it'll
what?
yeah,
Even like open mic night is a great example.
sure.
Um, I've done open mic night quite a few times. It is hilarious. I've done open mic night like a few times, and I've had encores. Okay,
Mm.
and like there's not that many people. Like this is like 11 o'clock at night. And I probably had like maybe two or three drinks in there, but I probably sound a lot better than like half of the fucking assholes that went up that were probably high, drunk, and stoned at the same time. But honestly, it's a real experience, because the thing about being live is that even if you're not necessarily the one that's on stage, you get to physically be there. And okay, I'm a little bit of an instrumental junkie when it comes
Okay.
to like you could hear the bass. You can hear the bass player, or it's like, electric bass, and you can hear like thumping in the background. And then you hear the guy like hitting the toms and the drums.
Mhm.
And then you have like the other person that's playing like guitar, and then the second guitar. And it keeps on going, man. And then you got like this cool man that's wearing like Calvin Klein, like woman's jeans size 28. And it's got like a little glitter on there. And a pair of boots, it's like open and shit. And he just starts singing. And you're
Are you
just like,
describing Prince right now? It sounds like you're describing Prince.
I just sounds like I'm so different. I just got stuck in my brain. Um, but like, being there in that room,
Yeah.
and like the voice just comes out. I don't care what anybody says. Like, you cannot experience that in a video.
Oh, 100%. No, there is something raw about like seeing something live. And I like your example of open mic nights because like it's really cool. Who goes to open mic nights? Mostly other musicians, right? And you're usually there to test something out, right? Or to do something for the first time. Um, and I like sometimes I like those um, sort of raw takes with mistakes and all more than the finished product because you saw the glint of the original thing that the person was trying to put out versus like the kind of refined product that's gone through like a process
See,
at the end.
this is why, like, I'm one of those people. You remember that Beatles song that came out Now and Then?
Sure.
Okay. That was a demo tape.
Mm.
Okay. If you hear the demo, obviously it's like a demo. And like, you've had other singers that do this before, like, they release demo tapes. It sounds a lot better. You
You
know,
think
it's,
that the demo sounds more better than
oh my
the
God, it's so
original?
much better. It doesn't like, there's like this fantasy of like taking raw and then like throwing AI and then Logic Pro X on there, you know, and expecting to find magic. Like, there's a reason why people record live concerts.
Mm. I
Okay,
agree.
there's
Yeah.
a reason why people record live demos in the recording studio. You know, and like they don't release that as the main song. It's called. Like, I don't know why. Like, I think I'm being crazy over here. Like, because I thought like that's not what you're supposed to do with demos. You know, they're supposed to like be a sacred.
Mm.
They are. They're sacred in a way.
Yeah. I guess so. But also, like, aren't you so glad that that demo was released?
Yeah, kind of. Like, not gonna lie.
Right? Yeah. No, I hear you on that. I almost always prefer live recordings over uh just studio track stuff. Like I I think everyone right now is obsessed with Dochi because I mean, she's amazing. She just won I think a couple of Grammys. Um, and I love that the mixtape she put out. The man, it has crocodile in the title, but I'm bad with names. Um, but honestly, like listening to her Tiny Desk, which is basically a live concert, I'm like I prefer that so much more than the recorded version because there is a room sense that was happening. There was something cool and special happening in that room with those people live at that moment. Um, Even though it's a recorded concert, just like you said, it's still to me a little bit more real than just whatever came out of the studio. I think both are totally
Yeah.
valid, but like I yeah, that Tiny Desk like blew my hair back. I was like really
You know,
impressed.
talking about like even modern artists, one thing that's like very like popular now is like with Chapel Rowan and Sabrina Carpenter. Because when you listen to Chapel Rowan, particularly like her released like final like songs, they're amazing.
Yeah,
And then when you listen to the live recordings, she's fantastic.
yeah,
And like, no shade on Sabrina Carpenter, like her songs are good, and then you see her performance, and then it's just her performing,
yeah.
not singing, just performing. And then she sings, and
It's fine.
it's yeah,
It's fine.
it's fine. So that's what I'm saying. Like you want to look at a modern example of like the differences. Chapel Rowan and Sabrina Carpenter is a great example of this.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I'm not a huge fan of the Grammys or anything, but I do pay attention to them obviously because it's like part of my
I don't
industry.
really want to, but when you see one of Will Smith's kids put on a fucking house on his
House, yeah.
head, you just start scrolling.
You tune in. You want to you want to check it
Yeah.
out. But I did like kind of fast forward through the actual award parts and just like watch some of the performances. I was funny to me that I think Sabrina Carpenter was like first or second or third, like really early up in the lineup for Grammy performances, and Chaperone was like way towards the end. And yeah, I mean, I I I don't. I'm trying to be kind, but I don't think they should have switched places. You know what I mean? Like, I do think Sabrina Carpenter kind of belonged earlier in the lineup. She would have been totally overshadowed because I don't think she has as strong of a voice as Chaperone or as strong as like an artistic voice as I think Shakira or Quincy Jones tribute had a bunch of really amazing artists kind of paying tribute to Quincy. So like, it's a very I yeah, you're hitting on something there because I don't there is like a pop star sensibility that there's always this kind of like conventionally pretty blonde like person who's singing and doesn't sound bad, but it isn't anything kind of new or special. And it's
You
got
know
to
what?
be
You
forgotten,
know,
you know?
going back even like, come on, we were talking about 2012. Pink, okay? You remember like the war between Pink and Kesha?
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
even now, Pink is, I like, oh my fucking god! Like
Yeah.
she made my teenage years, and she's still making my adult years. But Kesha was like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like the same thing with Pink. Like you hear a Kesha song, and you're just like tick tock on the, and it just everybody just starts like, those were two very fucking powerful voices like competing against each other.
Yeah.
What's confusing to me is especially like now is like the competition is like one is incredibly weaker than the other
Mm,
one. And like I'm pointing this out to you because particularly when it comes to jazz, this is a great example, right? If you have a strong pianist and then you have a strong guitarist, that's a great combo. But if you have a strong bassist, it's just going to kind of fuck up the mess. You kind of want to make sure you have like a level out of what you want in front, what you want in the middle, and what you want in the back, or depending on what you want to do. Does that
mm.
make sense?
When you say strong, do you mean what do you, yeah, what do you mean by strong? Because I'm I think when you're putting together like a group for a project, you should definitely have an idea of like what you need, like what every single one of those people kind of brings to the table. Um, so like you want all those players to be super strong, right? But
You don't want
it
them to
depends.
over you don't want them to overpower each other. That's what I'm
Oh
saying
yeah,
is,
totally.
so if you have a pianist that thinks he's the best pianist in the world, and you have a violinist that thinks he's the greatest violinist in the world, like you're gonna have competitions against each other
Sure.
in
Okay, I see
in
what you're
that
saying.
environment. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think putting a bunch of type A egos in a room together is not necessarily the recipe for success. I but I do think that the most important thing in those scenarios is less the ego and more respect. Like if everyone has a mutual respect and is like willing to hear where the other is coming from and and willing to go down whatever like artistic or musical rabbit hole the other is going down, if especially if they're improvising. I think if there's trust and respect in that group, regardless of the egos, it'll work out because everyone will understand their role. I think if you're playing music at that high of a level and you don't understand your role in the music, then I don't even know how you got there.
I it's funny you bring that up because for me, one great example is Japanese jazz.
Hmm. Okay.
Like particularly like I sometimes like listen to like old tracks from like the 70s and 80s
Sure.
where, a lot of this is like recorded live. It's
Mm.
not even done in a studio. And you can hear them just randomly playing. Like they're not even, but it's just one after the other. It's like one just goes and the other one just knows immediately how to follow.
Right.
That is like a level of craftsmanship. Like, damn, you really know your band members well, and you're able to
Yeah.
perform in that. Damn.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think I wouldn't necessarily just attribute that to Japanese jazz
No.
musicians.
I'm just giving
Yeah.
that as an example, like from like my own like perspective and observation.
Yeah. I think um, when you come up as a jazz musician, you have to learn standards, right? You have to learn kind of all these this music from like the Great American Songbook, all these old musical tunes that turned into jazz standards and things like that, right? Think My Favorite Things from Sound of Music turned into a jazz standard when John Coltrane recorded it in the late 50s, early 60s, right? So, like, you learn, I don't know, 40 or 50 songs, and you have memorized, and they're kind of in your head and you're in your lexicon. And you go to a jam session, and then you're kind of being brought along to this process of how this all works and how the tradition works. Okay, it's a a quartet. There's a saxophone player, a drummer, a bass player, and a keyboard player, right? Okay, the saxophone player is gonna play the melody. They're probably going to take the first solo. Who's the next instrument that goes? Okay, the piano player goes next. We might do a bass solo if we have enough time. Probably not. Maybe we'll go to the drummer and we'll trade with the drummer. Do four measures each, and then we'll play the melody and we're out. That's a very standard like structure for improvisation. So if everybody who's a jazz musician understands that structure, then you can go a level deeper and like we're actually going to go off into this other direction. Um, and then from there you can go even a level deeper and like we're going to go into a bunch of different directions and at the highest levels of musicianship you can just kind of do that. And it's not a very it's not that it's not difficult, but those people have kind of paid their dues and learned and understand the tradition at such a high level that they can just sit down, play, and everyone else kind of knows what's going on.
I think what is forgotten is where you are now didn't happen yesterday.
Oh, 100%.
It,
No.
it could happen 20 years ago. It could be 35 years of work to get where you are. But a lot of the time when you're an outsider, or you're just talking to the person, you don't see all of the work that they've put in to be where they are now. You're like, how come he gets to pick up the saxophone and be able to just pull out
Right.
any chord like in a blink of, because he spent 28 years
Right.
on a saxophone doing this, right?
Somehow we've made it back to the wedding band conversation.
Hmm?
Somehow we've made it back to the wedding band conversation where like the person doesn't understand what exactly they're trying to pay for, right?
Right.
Because that's exactly what they're trying what they want honestly is an iPad, like just in someone to press play. That's what they want, but they want the aesthetic of someone playing live. And I do think live music is better, but yeah, it's a hairy thing because you're right. They're paying for the 30, 40, 50,000 hours you've put into your craft. And that's priceless. How do you put a price on that?
It's weird because, having respect for craftsmanship and the work level of detail that people put in, I kind of feel this almost gets lost. When you live in a society where a lot of things are automated,
Hmm.
you kind of lose that understanding of, okay, I'll give you a great example. All right. On the car side of things, people think that, well, because cars today are electronic, they're more automated. Keep in mind, there's still physical elements. Okay. There's still wiring and connectors and pins. There's solenoids, there's actuators, there's relay. I mean, I could just go down through the list. These are all physical things you can touch and feel and test. But at the same time, even though you may not understand it, having that respect of like, even though I don't understand it, I'm going to respect the person for what they do. That's hard. A lot of people can't do that. I can be honest, like for myself, sometimes it's hard to like, you do that? Really?
Can I give you a funny example?
Yeah, please.
Whenever I'm on like a small road and I see an 18-wheeler like semi truck driver like just like back their stuff up into their wherever they're loading in or loading out of, I'm just in awe. I'm just sitting here like, bro, you're stopping traffic. There are like 40 cars just like waiting for you to do your thing, and you so smoothly just made that shit happen. And driving is a craft. I would assume you feel that way as someone who just loves cars as much as you do.
Oh, I drive every day.
Yeah, hell yeah,
every day.
But like, yeah, watching that dude with like 20, 30 years of trucking experience just like wheel that shit in like it's nothing. Respect.
Do you know
Respect.
there's some dudes that remember doing that before video cameras? So these days, those semis have cameras, but
Mm.
back in the day, they didn't have cameras.
Yeah, you just have to know the dimensions. You just have to understand it inherently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you were that fucker that decided to fuck up that day, ouch.
No, no,
I don't want to be that person. But
no.
I definitely feel you on like there's so many people doing so many different things. Like even within, I'll be honest with you, like even painters. I sometimes have a hard time understanding painters. I'm like, so you spent 92 hours on this picture. 92 hours. And that was like $4,000 in material. Wow. Like
What's
mass
so?
respect.
Are you saying you do respect them, or are you saying like
No, like like the same thing with like truck drivers. I'm
okay,
like, I'm
yeah,
in
yeah,
awe with these people. I'm like,
yeah,
how the hell do you do that shit?
yeah, hundred
Like,
percent.
it takes me like a year to finish one picture.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, man. Yeah, I think there are some people who are built a little differently. Who like they can do that and not sell the painting and not make their money back and still find it um, rewarding because the whole point of it was just the art. Um, I'm assuming that the money's still nice, but uh,
Oh, the money is very nice. Very, very nice. I mean, it's the same thing that apply. I I don't know, you may have ran into this like particularly when it comes to teaching because I was like told that oh, the automotive industry is a great industry to be in. It is. It's a great industry to be in. The problem is that it's very much run by corporate. So if you want to be successful, you have to be independent. My brother did that, and it took him 20 years.
mhm.
No one, no one warns you that this shit is going to be difficult, right?
Mm.
Everybody's like, it's going to be great. Like you're going to have a great career. Like it's going to be smooth. But nobody tells you all of this shit that comes along with it. It'd be nice to get like a little something, like a warning pamphlet.
Yo, I feel that. I'm that guy to a lot of people. I'm the flashing warning sign, like they say in Easy. Well, my 9 to 5, I advise music students at a local school, um, and a lot of them come in like, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, like, "Oh, I'm gonna do my 8 semesters at this really amazing music school, and then I'm going to, like, tour the world, and that's what it's gonna be." And I don't wanna be the bearer of bad news, but I bring in some reality into it. Like, hey, maybe there's gonna be, like, 2% of you that actually do that. So what else? What do you want to put out into the world? What do you want to do? Like, is like that might not happen for you. I remember when I was in grad school for music, I was around a lot of classical musicians, and for classical musicians, the whole thing is they want to be picked up by one of the big orchestras. Like I'm in Massachusetts, I'm in Boston. Boston Symphony Orchestra is a top 5 orchestra. If you make a top 5 orchestra, you're kind of set for life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's only so many
I know.
of those seats. Like
I know.
like people hold on to them for their entire lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Some of them are even in their 90s.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna do. So like, okay, so you might make an orchestra. Like you're not gonna do it now.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be something really special to be able to just make that happen right now for yourself. So how are you gonna make a living between now and then? And then might not ever happen. Not because you're not skilled enough, not because you don't have the aptitude for it, but because the circumstances might not be there. So no, yeah, I'm often just that flashing warning sign of like being an artist is very rewarding and it's not easy and it's going to be something that you're going to have to work towards your entire life and you might not make it where you want to make it. Period.
Yeah. It's very. I mean, there are so many examples. I feel this way like a lot of the time, even by like Amy Winehouse.
Mm,
Just that thought of imagine if she did not die and she was alive now.
yeah.
But Here's the thing, she ain't around anymore, but we still have all of what she left us. One harsh reality that you might have to accept: you may not experience the success in your life.
Yeah.
It may happen when you die.
Yeah, it happens time and time again. Van Gogh, um,
Great example.
probably the classic example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, Thinking of a classical composer, Bach. Bach wasn't he wasn't that dude when 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 he was alive. He had a regular church gig. He was he was playing church services 7 days a week for his entire life. Had like 20 kids. Was trying to just pay off debts. Afterwards, they found all these beautiful piano music, and like it's become like a staple for all of anyone who studies piano, right? But like,
I
nah,
think it's crazy when you even think of like Mozart, right?
hmm.
That when he became successful is when he became deaf.
I think you're thinking of Beethoven.
Beethoven, sorry, Beethoven. Um, like, isn't that crazy? Like, you're successful, but can't hear a thing. Like you like
Yeah, no, that's a terrifying thought, and
it,
it's not one that I relish.
no, no. But
Yeah,
that's the idea though. Is like there, this idea of the one-way ticket, the golden ticket,
yeah,
as Willy Wonka put it. There is no golden ticket.
yeah.
There is no chocolate factory. Like,
Just blind luck, straight blind luck.
yeah, damn. Reality is kind of fucked up sometimes because you're like, you watch so much television and movies, and you're on the internet and you're like, wow. And then, like we've been saying over and over again, it's like reality does seep in. And, to your point, like sometimes you just wake up and you're like, holy shit, why the hell am I in this matrix? I mean planet Earth. Um, it doesn't feel real sometimes. You sometimes like sit there to yourself and you're like, am I alone in this? You know, I remember once I was coming back from a flight, and I was in the airport. I think this was in LaGuardia, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember I was like just sitting there. I was like having a really hard time. Um, I had went to see a friend, and it was just an awful experience. So I'm waiting in this airport, and I see this couple. Like, they have the airport seats, and then kind of a little further down, and they're fighting.
Mm.
And I'm kind of like, he's dropping. Come on, it's like,
It's kind of hard not to if people are
yeah,
fighting
right. And I'm waiting for my
a little.
flight.
Yeah.
And make a long story short, it turns out they were going on their honeymoon.
Mm.
And she found out that he cheated on her.
Whoa.
And they were on the way, like at the gate. I just,
Yeah.
it sinks in, and you think to yourself, wow, like, I feel like I'm the only one that's having a shitty day.
Mm. But yeah, this couple's lives are being destroyed right now by it sounds like the choices of one of them. But, yeah, no, I feel that. I think perspective is important. You aren't the center of the universe. Everything's gonna roll right on without you. Oh, hello, kitty.
I know she just comes in and out whenever she wants to.
What's the cat's name?
Her name's Twix.
That's a perfect name for that color.
Mm-hmm.
Adorable.
Yeah. I mean, we sometimes joke you either get the right side or the left side, depending on the day.
I see. I see. Uh,
I still love those commercials, by the way. I don't know why they got rid of them. But honestly, like, you have many artists that really know how to capture that awareness. And you could
yeah.
definitely feel that in their music and in their work. Even sometimes people that they're broken. We got to remember that, like, I think something I've realized along the way, a lot of artists in particular, traumatized pasts. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a reason why we're creative. Trying to keep the
yeah,
boogeyman away.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, just trying to trying to keep some light in your eyes a little bit. Yeah, I think a lot of artists, their main coping mechanism is their art, which I think is troublesome. Honestly, I think um, something I always tell my college students um, is when they're first getting to music school is like, you should find a thing that isn't music to relax, because now music's your job, and you don't really know what that means yet. Like, you think of what uh, high school was like for people who are musically inclined. Like the band room, the chorus room, whatever it was. Like it was the safe space. The basement, where they practiced with their band was the safe space. Like the concerts they were going to were the safe space. Now they're at music school. Now music's still a really important part, I think, for you, but it's your job now. It's the thing that you have to do for a living. So for me, like, the nerdy stuff I nerd out to, cooking, like, I needed a different outlet to actually relax, because music wasn't and isn't the most relaxing thing for me, because it's part of my job. So I think everyone needs that other outlet when they make their passion their work.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, to my point, like I said before, I mean that's kind of why I picked the car industry and
Sure.
cars, because you know, drawing and doing podcasting. The nice thing about working on cars is you don't really talk to anybody. You just
Mm,
kind of sit there with your own tools, and you repair what you need to repair. Um it sounds lonely, but to be honest, sometimes the thing that's fucking you up the most is what's in your fucking head. Let's be honest.
mm. Yeah, sometimes you just need to take some time for yourself. 100%.
I feel that we sometimes our brain moves faster than we think. In the sense where we sometimes make very quick decisions, sometimes like purely emotional decisions. Um and I think especially like when you are picking something that already is so vast and so many people are doing this, and you want to do this for your own sake, there needs to be like a level of clarity for your own
Yeah.
self. I mean, you could talk for your own students, having like, I get you want to get there, but remember that there's 389 steps before you get to 390.
100%, man. I get so many students coming in first semester, and they're like already talking about grad school. And I'm like, yo, you got to worry about ear training tomorrow. Like, you don't got to worry about grad school or anything that, like, it's not, you're not there yet. And I get it. I get the impulse to want to make sure that you're set up for success and everything. But like, sometimes when you look that far into the future, you're actually failing yourself right now, right? You have to be present to actually take in the information you're trying to get,
It,
in the moment.
it's really understanding of what we can understand. I mean, realistically, we can understand maybe tomorrow, maybe 3, 4 days if you're scheduling appointments or things of that nature. But just as unstable the past is, the future is the same, where you are making the future. So, in order for you to make the future, you need to first know what's in front of you. I think like the, I give you a great example, by the way. I mean, I've been doing this podcast since 2021, right? There's been a lot of shit that's happened since then. There are a lot of people that they stop after a year, they stop after 2 years because they don't have that balance. You need to be able to have that ability in order to be successful. Otherwise, you're just going to keep on doing things, stop them, fail, and then settle and end up being miserable with your life because you've gotten absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, you got to stick to it in some way, shape, or form. Like, and I feel sustainability is the thing, right? You can't constantly put 120% of your cup into one place, or you're going to burn out. Right? You got to be able to kind of diversify a little bit. Uh,
Quantify.
is that a better word for it? Quantify.
I don't know. We've been using a lot of scientific terms, and I don't hate it, but some people are going to be asking questions like, "Oh my god, do I got to check up now Webster's dictionary to figure out what these words?" It's hilarious when you think that people will understand certain words, and they're like, "What?" And you're like, "You never heard of that before?" And I'm like, "No." And then you got to like actually pull up a dictionary on your phone. Obviously, we don't carry dictionaries no more.
Yeah, I mean, we have the whole of understanding of the world in our pockets now. So why carry around a dictionary?
Yeah. Isn't it, I mean, it's kind of crazy because if you go back 11 years ago, making music was a lot harder. There's a lot more physical elements to it. You had to pay a lot, like, you had to pay a lot for certain programs, particularly. And then you had to make sure you had all the equipment and you had to make sure you had the right space.
Yeah,
And now you can be in a fucking spa in the Crunch Gym and press play and you're good to go.
yeah. No, the technology is interesting. I mean, and also the way people access, right? Like, um, I don't know, in like 2006, I think you couldn't upload a video to YouTube that was longer than like 10 minutes or so, right? Um, Now, like,
Hours.
um, there's so much just stuff to put out there. I think that it's both a negative and a positive, right? The positive is that everyone that wants to be able to make music can make music in some way, shape, or form. The negative is like the chance. It's like a heat needle in a haystack. The chances of like someone actually finding you and liking your stuff, um, which brings us back to the kind of social media aspect of being an artist and trying to constantly sell yourself. I struggle with that a lot, honestly. Like I struggle with the constant like feeling like I should be posting about this or like vlogging about that or whatever. Even podcasting, I'm like I want to market myself. I want to make sure people can actually listen to it and people that might be interested in it or it could help them can find it. But like the constantly putting yourself out there and kind of shouting into the void, it can cost you a little bit.
It
It
can.
can be difficult to kind of deal with.
What's crazy is that um when you're dealing with like the outside world in particular, like you were saying, I had even one of my classmates the other day. He's like, "Why don't you make shorts for the podcast?" You know, I'm like, they're on Rumble, they're on YouTube, full length videos. You want to watch a clip? Go on there and you can watch. Like, I'm not trying to be like, I don't want to do this. It's where I have so many other responsibilities in my life that I
Right.
feel that I am doing the best I can with this, right?
Yeah.
I'm not setting myself up for failure. I understand my limitations. Remember, we were talking about like the idea of burning yourself out. You
Mm,
want to get all the way to music school, you want to be able to graduate, and you got to put in the goddamn work from start to finish. You
right.
know, that may be sacrificing your Friday nights, that may be sacrificing your whole fucking week.
Mhm.
But like, like, I don't know who said that this is going to be easy, but it ain't. It never will
No,
be.
it's not. It ain't easy. Yeah, that's the goddamn truth. No, none of this is easy, man. But we're trying, and I'm thankful other people are trying because when you see it, you can be it. You know what I mean? Like when you see other people trying to make it happen and put the work in and do it over 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and still not get it, but eventually get to a place where they're successful and able to um, make a living off of their art. Yeah, it's possible. It's hard, but it's possible. So
It is.
we should keep that going.
No, 100%. And I think that in the end of the day, all in all, um, it's it's about staying happy. You know,
Mm,
like like we said, like you're always going to have hard moments, but the main thing is that to be able to have that happiness in your life, whether that be a partner or a new house or a new car, or maybe, you know, um, could say even for your own self as a teacher, where you have one of your students that's like comes up like, oh my god, you like made my fucking life. You meet up with them like a few years later, and they're like actually
Mhm.
doing pretty well. Those are things we look forward to. It's like, yes, life is shitty, world is fucked up. I get it, but we have all of these other things that can make us happy every
Mm,
moment of the day.
yeah,
May not be every day, but we have those moments.
100%. Yeah, no, you gotta. If you sit in the negative for too long, you're just gonna kind of trick yourself into a tailspin. No, it's kind of feels cliche to say it, but half full people just tend to have a little bit of a better life. They tend to just be able to cruise through and not worry as much. Um, and I strive to be one of those people one day, but I'm not one of those people all the time. But hopefully I can make it more
It
than 40% of the time.
it's a lot of work, and nobody completes everything in their life by the time they die. There's going to be a lot of things that you're going to want to do that you never get there, or whatever the case may be. But you have those other things that you did do,
Yeah,
regardless of the things that you didn't do.
true, 100%,
Yeah.
100%, man. Yeah,
Um, Wanted you to maybe, because we've been talking about this like for the past hour, a little bit more about your podcast, because I know you're a teacher.
yeah.
I know you do jazz,
Hmm.
and damn, that is a lot of information to keep in one head. But tell me a little bit more about your podcast.
Sure. So I run a show called PlayBlack. It's basically two nerds of color talking about how nerdy shit affected them and all the stuff that we want to see out in the world. Like you said, I'm a musician and a teacher, educator. My partner is also a musician, but he's also an author and an actor, and he runs a small nonprofit that helps artists with their artists of color specifically with the kind of back end services that they need for themselves here in the Boston area. And it's a place where we're trying to build community around the stories that make us happy and all the aspects of those stories, be that the musical aspects or the actual written word. So yeah, Play Black. Check it out anywhere you find podcasts. And also, we're also working on an audio drama called My Blood the Ink that I'm composing the music for. That Jay wrote and performed in alongside a huge cast of wonderful actors that we were able to find in the area. So check that out. My Blood the Ink and Play Black. You'll have a good time.
Yeah. I mean, hey, whenever things get nerdy, I'm just saying, I kind of want to hear the tea.
Yeah, man. Like we get into it. We get into all the nerdy little tidbits and things. Anything
Like
from
comic
fa-
books, action
yeah,
figures.
fantasy. We've interviewed a lot of authors lately talking about their books, which is pretty cool. Anime, um, yeah, yeah, any form of TV or movies. Just giving hot takes and trying to bring some positivity out into the world.
It's funny you mention anime, because like a couple of months ago, I was introduced to food anime. I did not know that that was a thing. I was
Food
complete
anime.
food anime.
What'd you watch?
So there is like this food anime drama where it's food that's like anthropomorphic or something,
Okay.
and it's okay. Basically, like the scene that I was watching was like a short clip. It's like this potato that's like peeling itself, and then
Oh
it like
yeah.
it throws itself in boiling hot water. And I'm just, first of all, anime is wild to begin with, and then I see this shit, and I'm like, where have I been all these years?
Oh man, I don't know the name of that show. I have seen
Have you covered that, by the
that
way?
clip.
Because you should.
No, I've seen that clip a lot. It's comes up probably once a week, and I've never actually checked out what show it is, but it looks hilarious and kind of like what Sausage Party, that awful movie from like 2013, was supposed to be.
With Seth
But
Rogen, and they're all on
yeah,
drugs.
with Seth,
Oh
exactly.
my god,
Yeah,
that's so funny.
wild time. But no, I love anime because I think it says the quiet part out loud. You know, it's constantly just like in your face, like, no, man, this is about the power of friendship. This is about the belief in yourself and believe in others and the greater good, and everything bending towards justice, all that good shit.
All that
It's
jazz.
cheesy, it's weird, ha. But sometimes you need a little bit of that, kind of radical positivity or radical belief
Mhm.
in what you're watching, because a lot of times shit is bleak. So
Oh yeah, and I mean, hey, just throwing that out there. Future idea for food anime podcast episode. Just throwing it in the universe.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Question for you, man. I know that you have the podcast. Do you have any social links? Like a
Yeah,
website, Instagram, YouTube. Which I'll add a card, by the way, if you have YouTube.
yeah,
And
sure. If you go and follow PlayBlack podcast on Instagram and TikTok, you'll find us there. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Miggle_Wiggle on Instagram.
so
And
90s,
I,
so 90s,
so 90s,
so 90s.
showing my age there for sure. If you want to check out my website, it's MiguelLandestoy.com. And I'm sure you'll have some stuff in the description, but if you check out the PlayBlack link tree, you'll find all my stuff there.
Okay, that's awesome, man. And then listen, Miguel, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And I mean, hey, one of the best things about jazz is getting into that vibe. So, just saying.
You're not wrong, man. You're not wrong.
No.
Vibes are good. The vibes were good for this conversation. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. And listen, anybody out there want to check out more of the podcast, you know where to find us. Lost in the Groove Pod. So with that, motherfuckers, catch you on the next one. Peace out.